be acting as the moderator for tonight's town hall meeting. Initially, on behalf of the Shenango Area School District, we thank you and appreciate you coming to tonight's presentation. This is the second town hall meeting that the administration and board has undertaken, and the purpose of this meeting is to inform everyone about the potential building of the new elementary school. We have several individuals here tonight. Most of you know them, but just to run down very quickly, Dr. Michael Schreck, superintendent, he's going to talk about the project background, give you some general information, some of the problems that we faced. Greer Hayden from the architectural firm of HHSDR is going to talk about what this is going to entail. Again, what the problems are with this building, what the solutions are. It's going to outline what's going to be done, timelines, great presentation all the way around. Coach Bill McNeese is going to discuss a little bit about the athletic advantages. And we all know Bill, we all love Bill, and there's no better person in Shenango to talk about those issues. Representative from Financial Consultants, PFM, Zach Willard, he's going to talk about the financing of this project, how it can get done. We're going to have Dean Alry of the school board, who is a member of the finance committee, obviously talk a little bit about finances and how the board is viewing this. And then finally, board president Al Burek is going to have a few words. Mr. Vincent was requesting anyone who would like to ask questions at the end to please sign up. We're going to limit questions as best we can to about 4 minutes. And if anything comes in late or anybody didn't sign up, certainly we're going to give the opportunity to speak. But obviously there's a lot of folks here. We want everybody to have the opportunity to ask any questions that they may want to. So no problem there. Okay. The last thing is this presentation tonight is being videotaped and it's going to be placed on the school district website for everyone to see. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Michael Schreck.
Thank you and good evening. I see a lot of familiar faces that were here from last week, and I'd like to welcome you back. And I apologize in advance because I'm going to say much of the same thing as did last time, so hopefully I don't bore you to death. But for those new people, I'd also like to thank you for coming this evening to hear about the proposed building project. We understand that there's a range of public opinions on the project, and we certainly know that people in our community care about where their hard-earned money goes. Our goal tonight is to demonstrate there's a definite need for the project, and that the school board has done its due diligence to find a reasonable solution. Not a catalyzed solution, but a reasonable solution for facilities that will enable us to be sustained as a district for years to come. I think they're going to lower the lights so you can see that a little bit. There you go. Is that a little better? As background information about our current facilities, the original part of this elementary school was constructed in 1926. It was built to function as the Shenango Consolidated School. The building served home to the burgeoning of the many one-room schoolhouses around the township. As originally designed, the school served students in grades 1 through 12, with elementary on the first floor, grades 7 and 8 on the second floor, and high school students 9 through 12 on the third floor. As the population increased and enrollment increased in the township, additions to the elementary school occurred in 1949 and 1972. The high school, which was built in 1959, remains largely unchanged. However, the high school and elementary were partially renovated in 1993, and the high school auditorium was renovated in 2006. Since the construction of our elementary and high school, education along with extracurricular and athletic programs have evolved tremendously over the years. As an example, before the high school was built, the room that you're currently sitting in actually served as a high school auditorium in the gym, our main gym. I do have a picture. This is an actual picture of this gym back in 1948-49 for varsity basketball playing. Can you imagine playing a varsity basketball game or perform a musical in this facility, this small facility you see here today? Just as athletics have changed over the years, so has education. When this building was constructed in 1926, formal education was not a vital asset for life. In rural areas like Shenango, education focused on the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Physical strength and knowledge of crops and animals were often more important than book learning back then. That's what the building was designed for. It was for the basics. At that time, running water and plumbing and bathrooms was a luxury in the school. Students now live in a world where technology, individualized instruction, expanded after-school programs, and unfortunately, school safety are part of the daily lives of our students. Instead of just being focused on the 3 R's, 21st century learning includes core competencies such as collaboration. That's where students are working to solve problems together. Digital literacy, where students have the opportunity to be exposed to current and future technologies that prepare them for life after high school. And also STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and math. Students around the country are being exposed to these STEM initiatives to keep our country competitive in a global landscape. Our current elementary school is not structured to design or deal with these changes in education. Instead, we have students learning in small, cramped spaces, grade levels split between floors, which makes collaboration nearly impossible. An infrastructure will not allow us to grow in the ever-changing world of technology. Classrooms that are not climate controlled, which makes them extremely hot in the fall and spring and cold in the winter. We lack the needed space to allow students to be hands-on with science experiments in an effort to bring learning alive. Finally, while we've made substantial improvements to the security in this building, the design and layout of the elementary poses challenges for fire, weather, and intruder emergencies. Next, I'd just like to share a few written comments from teachers regarding the condition of our elementary school. Oh, I forgot to show this slide. I did this last time, too. The picture on the left is 1926, what a typical classroom would look like. And the picture on the right is what a technology-driven classroom would look like, with a smart board in the back, kids with laptops, open spaces. They didn't need that much space in 1926. This is from Suzanne Montgomery, our current elementary teacher, or kindergarten teacher. Our students go to school every day in a building that is falling apart, to say the least. The building is old, and the temperature control is awful. In the late summer, when school begins for about 8 weeks, and the last 8 weeks of the year, the building is hot. This is sometimes over 30% of the school year. The temperature control in the room reads well over 90 degrees in the classroom. During the winter months, we actually have snow coming in the classrooms through the doors that would lead outside. We end up running numerous space heaters in the classroom to help, and then we blow fuses during the day. That makes it challenging and many times impossible to teach our students what they need to know in the time frame that we have. It also makes it hard to use technology that we have. That picture is actually a picture of a reading of a second floor classroom in the first couple weeks of school. I read 93 degrees in case you can't see it. Next is from Stacy Panay. She's an inclusion support teacher throughout the district. As a teacher that provides supports for students K through 12, I need to be able to easily communicate with families, teachers, administrators, and staff throughout the district. The current state of the elementary building does not support this need, as classrooms are not wired for telephones. Next is a quote from Ken Keene, a physical education teacher here in the elementary school. The size of our current elementary gym is significantly below regulation gym size, which limits physical education activities for our students. Next we have a quote from Mr. Vincent, our elementary school principal. He says, "Our building creates hardships for delivery of instruction and collaboration between students and teachers. It's spread out from the 3-story building that separates several grade levels, as well as support staff that also services students. The design of the proposed elementary building would eliminate this fragmented physical barrier, as it would be an academic wing conducive to collaboration with all stakeholders." And finally, this is from Karen Matus, and the picture there is actually a picture of one of our 3rd floor classrooms. You can kind of see the plaster falling off. Karen is a reading specialist and literacy coach in our district. She says, "Sadly, our technological infrastructure at the elementary has not kept pace with the high school, nor has it kept pace with neighboring districts. If we think about the structures of schools 100 years ago, we certainly wouldn't want to return to the one-room schoolhouse. Yet our elementary building is nearing that century milestone. How do we want the future to look for our students, our district?" From a superintendent's perspective, our students are just as eager as in other districts. They show all signs of healthy student development and curiosity. What might happen if we enrich the physical environment? It's been said that children have 3 teachers in the school: a teacher, other students, and the physical environment. As we heard at the last town hall meeting, someone would simply suggest to renovate the elementary school, and that would be good enough. While renovation would certainly improve the conditions, it doesn't solve the problem of small learning spaces, grade levels split between floors, and address the security issues we currently have. Our facilities have served us well over the years, but they have outlived its useful purpose. The proposed project will allow us to be competitive in the ever-changing world of education, not only within our county, but across Pennsylvania. These next couple pictures are outside walls, and then you can kind of see what the foundation is looking like. You can see we tried to repair the outside walls, and it continues to split. So if you could walk around during the building, that's what you would find. Next, I'd like to discuss the due diligence of the board, because the decision to build this elementary school and the athletic facilities at the high school didn't happen overnight. Long before I took over as superintendent, school boards since 2001 have explored and analyzed the needs of the district. A new elementary school and a new high school gymnasium have been part of the discussion. In 2002, Eccles presented 3 options for the high school that would include a gymnasium, expanded cafeteria, large group instruction rooms, classroom additions at the high school. Then in 2003, the school board established a facilities action committee comprised of community members and school employees to examine the current conditions. They ended up reporting back to the board what their findings were. And what they found is you're in need of a new elementary school and a new high school gymnasium. So in 2004, the board examined 4 additional options that focused on the new elementary school and high school gymnasium. Time has passed. In 2011, the board looked at it again. And again, the results of the findings were we needed a new elementary school and expansion to the high school gymnasium. And now we're to our current date where we are right now. So I guess my point is that the board over these past decade has taken the time to understand what the needs of the districts. This decision has not come lightly to them. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gerhaden to talk about the facility study findings.
Good evening again, everyone. As I mentioned last week, if you were here, we became involved with the Shenango district here back in 04-05, looking at some study options for the board to consider at that time. As Dr. Schreck pointed out, that study phase has started and stopped a number of times for various reasons. But at that time, when we were first engaged, we were also involved with the renovations to the high school auditorium and the expansion of the parking lot at the high school facility as well. Last March, we re-energized the facility study, went through all the motions to evaluate everything again, look at the demographics, look at cost projections. And that study was completed in February of this year. And at that time, the board opted to look at the options that were in the study and chose this particular option, which we've initiated with the Department of Education to get a placehold with the PlanCon process, which is the reimbursable program the state has for construction projects in districts. What I'd like to do next is just kind of summarize some of the findings of the existing building that were found in our studies and some of the previous reports that have been done on the building over these past 10 to 11, 12 years. There were 5 construction periods for the building. It comprises 98,000 square feet. It's a 3-story structure, but there are 6 different floor levels in the building. As you move around the building and see the various levels, there's some ramps that transport people from one level to another, stair towers to the upper levels, etc. Some of those ramps are out of compliance for ADA accessibility, some are not. There is an extensive corridor circulation network in the building, as Dr. Schreck said, reported. It does make the collaboration within grade levels very difficult. It's also very difficult to supervise. The building has an enormous amount of exterior doors. There's 20 exterior doors to the building. Some of those are a result of dead-end corridors, the way that the building was originally designed and constructed. Some classrooms have doors directly to the exterior to provide for the proper means of egress for those areas that have dead-end corridors. Some of the classrooms are very small. Today's standards for an elementary program, the way that teaching goes on in a classroom, the size of the classroom is anywhere from 800 to 900 square feet. Sometimes kindergarten rooms are even desirable to be larger than that, just because of the activities that go on in the kindergarten setting. We have 11 classrooms that are under 705 square feet. Some are even less than 660. So the Department of Education doesn't recognize anything below 660 as far as the capacity for reimbursement purposes. And it's very difficult to enlarge the classrooms as they sit in this existing building, particularly in this 1926 portion, because of the construction of the building. A lot of these walls are bearing walls, and it would be not very cost effective, and the end result would not be very good for learning in the classroom setting because of the shape the rooms would take on. Cafeteria is split. It's very difficult for food service operations, intensive labor costs, and then supervision of the dining areas. We found the structure to be fair. There are areas of the building around that you'll see, if you can get up on some of the upper levels, see some of the brick that is deteriorated. Mortar joints are opened up, a lot of water getting into the walls, going through freeze-thaw sections of the building, just perpetuating damage. You saw on the slide that one of the staff members' comments were on the plaster that's deteriorating. Some of the water that's getting through the exterior brick walls is getting to the inside and is degrading the plaster surfaces where it's crumbling to hand pressure. The exterior walls are poorly insulated. We have the deteriorated masonry. And then our windows are in poor condition as well. They leak both air and water. They don't have insulated glass. They transmit cold and heat very, very much so right through the frames and the glass itself. And that's just, again, causing more internal damage to the wall surfaces. The heating system, you heard the comments about the overheating. There's some residential window units on the third floor trying to temper the temperature of those rooms. Other classroom spaces have no air at all. The residential window air conditioners are just not the appropriate means for cooling in an educational environment. There is uneven heat in the building as well in the wintertime. Some areas are overheat, other areas are freezing. Some of these connecting corridors, there's no heating in them at all. The main heating plant is at the high school. There's a transport line that transports the heat medium from one building to the other. By the time it gets to the remote areas of this building, it's lost a lot of its capacity. Water temperature is way down. Fresh air ventilation is very deficient. As you know, we have high standards of outside air in classrooms today. Depending on the number of students in a class setting, the outside air fresh air requirements are quite high. Some of the building rooms you have here have little to no fresh air because of the antiquated systems and units that serve the classrooms. We also found the plumbing fixtures, piping, and valves to be in poor condition. Some of the valves don't operate at all any longer. The electrical system, the service entrance, the main switchboard are at maximum capacity. Even if we wanted to air condition the building today, it would require new electrical service because we don't have the capacity at all in this facility. The branch panels that serve various areas of the building, classrooms, are also at maximum capacity. The manufacturer is no longer in business, and as those breakers start to fail, the district has to buy those off market, which is very expensive. Classrooms lack power outlets. The distribution in the building from even all the back as early as the '93 renovation, we still have a lack of power distribution within classrooms to serve the electrical needs in today's classroom setting. The emergency generator is also overloaded. The fire alarm we did find to be in good operating condition, but today's standards are much higher than when it was originally installed. So that would need to be addressed in any type of a renovation. Lighting is outdated and inefficient. Sound system is outdated, main distribution system here in the building. And data cabling needs to be updated. It's problematic throughout the building. The wireless is very, should have advanced that slide for it. The wireless is very problematic. If you have a cell phone in this building, it's very hard to get any cell reception in the building itself. And the wireless transmission for data is also very deficient.
Hi, I'm Mike.
I don't want to jump ahead to that video yet. There is asbestos materials that still remain in the building. Some of those were abated in previous work that has been done here, but there still remains areas that have to have asbestos removed. Any renovation is definitely going to affect the building materials that contain the asbestos. And then, as I mentioned earlier, accessibility is very deficient for our ADA compliance. Ramp slopes and railings, restroom clearances and fixture heights. As you go into the restrooms, you can see, you don't need to be an architect, you're going to see they're very cramped, the lack of access for grab bars, etc. Classroom counters and sinks no longer meet the ADA requirements for classrooms that have those types of amenities in them. Door widths, in a lot of cases, are undersized, particularly on the stair tower exits. And the electrical and fire alarm device heights aren't at their current standard heights. And the exits that do not access to grade, all our upper floors, the upper second floor and third floors, have no areas of rescue assistance, which is required by code today for our accessibility requirements. So those are the general findings of the building that we found as we progressed through the evaluation of your facility here. Kind of summarizes the points that were made by some of your staff as well. What I'd like to talk about next is the proposed solution for the building program. This is a rendering that was put together to reflect what the current thinking is. This is the right side of the new building, which we can house a two-story classroom. This is our main entrance lobby. Next to that would be the office area. Moving towards the high school is the district offices, and then further over to the left is the entrance to the high school addition for the gymnasium lobby space. And then the gymnasium and high school further off to the slide to the left. It would be a two-story structure. Masonry construction, brick veneer, pitched sloping roofs, whether that's metal or shingles is yet to be determined. But the intent would be to blend materials with the high school building and also have some residential character to the building with the pitched roofs, and also promote positive drainage for the building. The site plan is oriented this way. This is Elwood Road at the top, Route 65. In the yellow is the footprint of the high school building. To the left is the addition. This area here would be the new addition. This is your stadium complex located here. The new addition for the elementary and the high school facilities would displace the baseball field. That is proposed to be reconstructed over the footprint of the current building, which is outlined here in this dark line in this location. You can see that from your seats. That's where the current elementary building sits. And then adjacent to that is a rectangular practice field that would also be part of the project as well. If I begin over here with the high school entranceway to the current gymnasium, this lobby space would be expanded. This tan area is all of the high school amenities that would be part of the project. It would include this new lobby space, AD office, concessions, restrooms to support the existing gym as well as this proposed new gym. And then there's also storage facilities located adjacent to that. The high school gymnasium would be a new gym with a limited spectator seating of 200 seats. And then behind that would be 2 locker rooms, dressing rooms, for the gymnasiums as well as for the teams that would be utilizing your fields, your stadium complex, track teams, football teams, baseball teams, etc. That have outside entrances to the locker rooms as well as inside entrances for basketball. Moving to the left of that, this is kind of our dividing line. It's a solid masonry wall. There are connecting doors. It was designed so there'd be total segregation between elementary students and high school students during the daytime. There are connecting doors which will be electronically monitored. But we do have a good physical barrier between the 2 age groups. As we move into the new elementary portion of the building, this purple area is the district offices. They would be part of the project with their own separate entrance located here so that all those functions go on independently of both buildings. There's a gymnasium, multi-purpose room for the elementary program, which again has limited spectator seating, about 250 seats. Next to that is the restrooms, the mechanical electrical support spaces, preceding a cafeteria with a raised stage, much like this one that we're in tonight, and then a full-service kitchen located here. Across the corridor from the cafeteria are the music program, both instrumental and vocal. Next to that is the guidance, the PTO office, and the building administration offices, principal, conference rooms, secretaries, etc. Across the corridor from the office is the nurses' suite, and then our new lobby space, which is the main entrance to the elementary building, is located here. At the opposite end of the lobby is the library, centrally located on the first floor. And then we move into a two-story element, which includes classrooms for our grade levels K through 6, with K through 2 being located on the first floor. All the kindergartens are grouped in this area around this learning pod. We have special needs classrooms distributed throughout each floor to serve each grade level. And then there's a pod here grouping of second grade and third grade classrooms. Restrooms are located in these areas for the classroom areas, next to the main entrance for access to the library, cafeteria area, and there's restrooms here that serve the gymnasiums. The second floor classrooms basically stack right on top of the rooms right below, and that houses grades 3 through 6, with fourth grade centered around learning pod here, and third grade in here, and then fifth and sixth grade in this area. Again, special needs and Title I rooms are distributed on this floor to serve those grade level students as well. This is a view that we have rendered what the lobby space could look like as you would enter the building, with taking advantage of some of the display cases on the left here, or on the right, sorry. And then borrowing some of the materials on this building, if it's tore down, some of the features that could be salvaged and incorporated into the lobby space, with some of the stone plaques, possibly the wildcats that are on top of this building. Try to incorporate some of the nostalgia from the current building into the new structure. You can't see it in this rendering because of the darkness of it, but we were looking at some brick patterns that would kind of pick up on some of the brick patterns on the exterior of this building as well. So those are some of the ideas that we tried to incorporate so that there's some connection to the past with the new building. These are some examples of what we would envision the library on the right could look like. Having a welcoming space there, storytelling area for the smaller students, and then a reference sections for our technology, our research, reading, instruction area within the library. And then to the left slide would be the possibility of what can happen in the pod areas. We've got multiple types of instruction going on with large groups, individual group, single person learning, technology provided in this space with the smart boards, wireless access, etc. So what the new building will deliver for the Shenango students would be support for modern technology, open space in the classroom pods for tablet use, computer use, wireless internet capabilities, technology in each classroom, including phone connections. We talked about that a little bit, one of the deficiencies in this building, and this is also a security issue as well as a functional issue for parent access. The new sound systems that can be interfaced with your telephone systems, so the classroom teacher can have a phone call forwarded from a parent into the classroom for consultation, can also be used for room-to-room communication, can also be used for security purposes when there's a security issue in the building. Curricular coordination integration, pod design for all grade levels, and then again, connected to the high school. We have the ability that when there's an assembly, a play, a speaker, it's very easy for the elementary students to be escorted from the elementary building to the high school auditorium for those larger type of functions. Staff can also go back and forth. So understaffed, it can be utilized for different functions in high school and elementary. It's very convenient for the staff to go back and forth within the building. Individual and group learning, you saw in some of the slides that Dr. Schreck had shown you, some of I had shown you that today's students in the classroom, there's group learning, there's individual learning. There's a lot of different things going on in the classroom at one time, and our new classrooms need to accommodate that. Climate control, keeping students comfortable, keeping the instructor comfortable, allows them to focus on learning. Environmental considerations are spatial quality, fresh air circulation, updated to today's building codes, and privacy from room to room. We don't have those, we need acoustical privacy from the corridor to the room and from room to room. And then also, obviously, energy efficiency. Security and safety. Obviously, we'll be reducing the number of entrances. You can see the entrances that would be much minimal in even a larger footprint that we've shown you. More secure entrances, phones in the rooms, secure vestibules. We have a way to manage visitors coming into the building after students are here without having access to the whole corridor network of the school system. Updated fire systems, fully sprinkled building, surveillance cameras, and of course, ADA compliant. Thank you.
Mr. McNeese is going to talk about the athletic facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Sapienza. It's a great day to be alive, huh? It'll be a greater day now if the class can figure out how to beat Arietta tonight, so we go Bucks, right? For those of you that don't know me, which is probably not too many of you out there, my name is Bill McNeese, and I've been a teacher here for 35 years. 25 years, I was the head men's basketball coach here. 12 years, I was the men's and women's cross-country coach. So I've been around athletics a long time, and been around Shenango a long time. So they asked me today if I come in and talk a little bit about the facilities here. And I've been very pleased to see the growth of the facilities through those years. Good coaches coming in, expanded programs and so forth. But the one thing that I haven't been able to see yet is the expansion and the improvement in the facilities that we offer for these young men and women. And so that's why I'm here to speak to you tonight. What we can do to improve that. First of all, I want to clarify a misconception. Somewhere out there, there was a thought that academics and athletics were two separate entities. Two separate entities. And I'm here to tell you this tonight. They are not two separate entities. Those two are tied together as closely as could be. Athletics are so much a part of this education that it's unbelievable. And that is something that really has always bothered me. Our kids learn a tremendous amount. And I would offer to say maybe more on that athletic field, on the court, in the locker room, than they do in the classroom. If you talk to anybody, guys, that's been involved in those kind of situations, the things that they take out of there, the life lessons that they get, the dedication, the commitment, the sacrifice, accountability, working together as part of a team for team goals, learning to overcome adversity, dealing with losses, dealing with wins, overcoming the bad times, handling pressure situations. Where are you going to learn to deal more with pressure situations when you're up and out mound with 2 outs, 2 strikes, and you need that 3rd strike to win this game? Folks, those are tremendous lessons. And I think if you talk to anybody who has climbed that ladder of success in whatever area they've been successful at, they will tell you that those life lessons were every bit, if not more, as important as learning how to solve one of my quadratic equations, or understanding that periodic table of elements, which I still don't understand, or identifying and recognizing a pronoun and an adverb. And I'm not taking anything away from that, but the life lessons that you take out of sports are tremendous. Because you don't understand here, in education, listen, we're not about facts and figures. We're not. Because the facts and figures we teach our young kids today are probably obsolete before they graduate. What we're about here is teaching them some things that can go on. We're in a brain training situation. We're trying to strengthen their mind, because if they can learn to solve my quadratic equation, if they can learn that periodic table of elements, if they can recognize pronouns, adverbs, then guess what? I'm pretty sure they can learn what their boss needs them to learn in whatever occupation they need to be at. Doctor, lawyer, plumber, wherever life takes them. Because this is all brain training. It's the same thing as weightlifting and running. When you think about it, why do you lift weights? You pick up a weight, you lift it a few times, you put it back down right where it was. What happened? You know, you go to a track, you run around that track, you start here, you run several circles, you end up in the same spot. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because that lifting, that running made you stronger, got you in better shape. Not for that, but for something else. Baseball, basketball, football, just as a general person, general health issues, but it trains you for something else. Well, we're in a brain training situation, baby. We want to train those brains and make them stronger so that they can succeed in other areas. And through athletics, I think not just the brain that gets trained, is the character. It's the strengthening of the character, the people skills, the coping skills, the learning how to deal with the tough times that we've all faced. All of us have faced. Don't tell me athletics isn't part of the educational system, because that always rubs me the wrong way. It is vital and crucial. And presently, we don't have the adequate facilities to take care of these young men and women to get these goals across. You know, we're trying to succeed in 2015 with a building that was built in 1958. Hey, 57 years ago, we needed 6 teams or groups to share one gym. 6. Not too bad. Can get it done. Flash forward to 2015, we have 29 groups that need to share that gym, and it's the same one gym. I'm a math guy, that doesn't add up real well. You know, what kind of problems are going to be raised in your house if I tell you to take whoever lives with you and multiply it by 5 and see how you do? You can imagine that the problems are going to occur with space, living space, the kitchen space, and the bedrooms. Well, we're facing the same kind of crisis. We've expanded, we've blown up, and that's great, that's beautiful, but we're not providing facilities that these kids need. We have varsity teams that have nowhere to practice the night before a game. Can you imagine that? We have kids at this school till 9:30 at night, young kids, 7th, 8th grade kids that should be home studying, getting ready for bed, whatever they need to be doing. At 9:30, they're still in this court, so they get back home probably after 10 o'clock. We have cheerleaders, dance line, major ed groups that have to practice in the halls. We have officials on game nights that have to dress in a bathroom or across the hall, in a classroom, and then walk over to take a shower. You know, our school isn't even deemed well enough to host tournaments, events that the WPL would put on, like playoffs, because it's just not good enough. Now, our own lobby, when you come in our lobby, 3 steps, you're on the gym floor. So now everything that you carry in there on those snowy, wet, rainy days is coming right in onto what used to be my floor. Right? It's just not the way we can do things. You know, our weight room, and I'm in there every day, so I'm pretty familiar with it. Our weight room needs a tremendous overhaul. It really does. It's antiquated. Our aerobic equipment is, at best, poor. And we didn't have a treadmill until this year. The bikes we got are hand-me-down bikes from other places that didn't really want them anymore. You know, we're so far behind the facility, behind the rest of the county, it's just crazy. We're the only school that only has one gym still for the junior, senior high school. And if that gym gets shut down for any reason, whether it's cleaning or whatever, well, we're in a lot of trouble because we have no options. The new auxiliary gym, folks, it's not a luxury. It isn't. It's a necessity. We have to have it. And do you realize that we're only adding one gym? Here's another misconception that I hear, you know, at Giant Eagle and Walmart when you're going like, hey, you guys put in 4 gyms, 4 new gyms. We're not adding 4 new gyms. We're adding 1. Because the high school gym is still going to be the high school gym. This elementary's got the gym that we're in right now, which I feel real comfortable. I might run a clinic or something later when we're done. But we got this gym, right? Well, in a new building, you're going to have a gym. You got to have a gym. We have an all-purpose room in this building. In the new building, we're going to have an all-purpose room. The only additional thing that we're adding is that auxiliary gym. These are going to be expanded. They're going to be better, as we all do in renovations. We're going to go up, not down. But we really didn't add 4 gyms, so I don't know where that came about. Now, if you flash forward a little bit, and now we'll talk about some numbers just recent, just 2000 and 2015. Okay, in 2000, and look at just the winter sports, let's say. I'm real familiar with that. We had 6 teams that needed to share that gym. Okay, you do the math. 2 hours of practice, that's about 12 hours each day, right? Now, you take the time that was allotted in the high school gym, this elementary gym, and that auxiliary gym. We have about 16 hours available. That's our perfect situation, which never really occurred because there was often an elementary conflict of programs they needed. There was junior high games at the high school and so forth. But even if you look at that, you know, 12 hours and 16 hours, that adds up pretty good. We can maybe make that work. Well, since then now, we have 11 teams that need that high school, that need this gym, that need that auxiliary gym. Again, do the math. That's 22 hours, and we got 16 available. So we're behind the 8 ball right now, even if it's a perfect situation, let alone having an elementary concert, a junior high game, and a senior high game up there, which wipes out the whole night at the high school. And you can see what kind of problems Mr. Good, our athletic director, is in. To try and get everybody in there and keep them somewhat happy, it's just crazy. He just can't do it. It's just too much judgment. And it's only going to get worse. You know, it's great that we have more kids, more squads, enthusiastic coaches that want to run off-season programs, but we got to give them a place to do just that. It's like telling them, hey, we're going to bring 20 more kids into this computer pass. Come on in, let's add 20 kids to the computer pass. Oh, by the way, you don't get a computer, you're just coming into class. That's what we're doing to our athletes. You know, we're bringing them into a situation where they're not really equipped to be handled. Listen, this is long overdue. You know, improved athletic facilities here are not just a nice, fuzzy thing to do. This is going to be necessary to compete. Our facilities are the worst in the county. I've been around, they're the worst in the county. And the plan that the architects and the board have looked at, believe me, they're not over the top. I've been in many more athletic facilities than you can possibly imagine. These are not over the top. These are the adequate facilities that we need to get the job done. There's not a lot of fluff and frill in there, as a lot of people would think. Let me ask you this. You think about, again, that 57-year period, right? What do you have at home that you had 57 years ago that still could do just the same kind of service to you now as it did then? Probably not. Maybe a wife. Maybe a husband. I'm hoping I make it to that point. And I hope my wife still thinks I'm good after 57 years. She didn't think I was good after 5. Hey, listen. Every week, I give my kids a little coach's corner. I give it to the teachers too. Just a little something, a little food for thought, right? Something about life. Coincidentally, I'll give you what this one was that went out today, just coincidentally. If you're only willing to give a minimum effort, then you better be ready to accept minimum results. And I think that's what we're looking at. You know, Shenango can no longer get by on the minimum. Shenango is better than that. We're better than that. Wildcat stand for excellence in everything we've done. I've been a part of this community for 35 years. 35 years. And pretty soon I'm going to be like a lot of you. I'm going to retire one of these years, Mike. I'm going to retire. And I'm going to be on a fixed income. My kids aren't going to benefit from any new facilities. They're gone. But I want this facility. I want this because this is what we need. This needs to be our legacy for our kids, for our grandkids. And in these 35 years, I've seen this community pull together so many times to get something done. Whether it was fix a ball field, put this up over here, pull together. Hey, it's time to pull together again. You know, maybe you got to fight the board a little bit and get it done, but for the good of the community, to pull together for that Wildcat pride, we can't settle for anything less. Let's do the right thing. Let's build this school. Thank you.
Bill, passionate man. Can you tell he's a coach? I wanted to put some tennis shoes on. Oh, that wasn't my game. I mean, I had to talk about it. Thank you, Bill. I'd like to introduce Mr. Zach Williams and talk about some of the finances from PMI.
Okay, thank you. My presentation is not as exciting as his was, but my name is Zach Williard. I work at Public Financial Management. We're the district's independent financial advisor. So what that means is simple. It's our job to find the lowest cost of financing for this project. And when you do a project of this size, which we'll talk about in a second, you borrow money. Typically, it's very common in Pennsylvania for school districts to borrow money. So that's what that's what we'll be helping the district with. The first slide, if you could click to it. What this is an interest rate chart. So when we would go out to the market and we borrow what we call a general obligation bond issue to fund this project, it's based on interest rates, just like if you're going to, buy a house and take out a mortgage. What this chart is meant to show you is that, while we're not at the lowest point in history, which we were back in 2013, interest rates are still at very, very low levels. We call them historically low levels. So what that means is, while there's never a great time for a project like this, there is a right time for a project like this, and now is that time. The second slide here we're going to talk about the cost difference between a renovation and the new building project. As I said, we would probably do a general obligation bond issue. That's been determined to be the lowest cost of financing for this project. We would likely borrow the money over 3 periods, 3 steps, which would help coincide with what we call the draw schedule or the construction schedule of the project, which would take place over a 2 to 3 year period. And by borrowing in 3 phases, it would also help phase in the millage impact, okay? Because there is going to be a cost to this when you borrow this money, and we want to phase that in over a 3 or 4 year period so that it's a little more gradual of an increase. The bond issues would be issued with a call feature. So what that means is in the future, similar to your home mortgage, you're going to be able to refinance this debt. For interest rate savings, hopefully you can even pay it off early, just like you could mortgage, if the district has available funds to do that. So there is flexibility built into these bond issues in the future. And then lastly, there is some operational savings in state reimbursement, which we'll talk about in the below red and blue boxes, available to help offset some of these costs. So on the red, in the renovation, we're estimating we need to borrow about $30.6 million in order to renovate the school to keep it kind of up and running at adequate standards. The average annual payment, which would essentially be the annual mortgage payment of the debt, would be about $1.7 million. It's estimated that about $200,000 of state reimbursement can be achieved through this project. So that would be, help to offset the payment. So the net payment below there you see is about $1.5 million. We have no operational savings associated with the renovation, which we do for the new building. So your estimated net payment is about $1.5 million. So what that translates to is an estimated millage equivalent of about 2.8 mils in order to take this building and renovate it again, okay? If you go with the new building option, we're estimating it's going to cost about $44.5 million. The average annual mortgage payment, about $2.5 million. Then when you take out the state aid, we're estimating at $223,000, and the operational savings of $200,000. You're left with the net payment of $2.1 million, which translates into 4.16 mils. So the difference between the renovation and the new building is about 1.3 mils in order to have a new building, the building that you see in all these pictures. Okay, so that's what we're estimating currently. Again, there's never a right time, there's never a great time to do a project like this, but there is a right time, and interest rates are at historically low levels, so it's the right time. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Board member Dean Oliver is going to talk a little bit about some more finance, and he's a member of the finance committee. Dean, please.
Good evening. And for those that don't know, my name is Dean Oliver again. I was appointed to the board in February of 2014 following the untimely death of Ron Martin. So that is how I got to the board, in case anyone's wondering. I want to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you for coming out. And the reason, if you go to the next slide, is if you think about the chronology and the history of this building, this is a point in time that some of us will only deal with once, maybe twice a generation. That is financing, making an investment in the next generation of education. The building we're in since 1920s, high school 1950s. So again, it comes around once every 50, 70 years. So your involvement is vital. So thank you for being here. The reason it's vital is because of the economics of running a public school system. If you look at the pie chart above, you'll see that Shenango, we run an operating budget here of about $16 million a year. About 65% or 10 million of that is subsidized by the state. It's a redistribution of the myriad taxes that are imposed on its residents, and it comes back in the form of subsidy. The rest of the economics to the school district is in the form of local sources, which is either the real estate tax assessment or the earned income for those who are wage earners and have 0.5% of their wages sent to support the school district. So we really are beholden to the community anytime you undertake a transaction of this kind of magnitude. It is perhaps the most unique industry that you can think of, because we can't affect prices, there is no price, and we can't affect the quantity of what it is we sell or we produce to in fact have any impact on our revenues. We're entirely beholden to those two sources. And true to that obscurity is this notion of millage. Now, most of us are very familiar with dollars and cents and percentages, but this concept of millage is a bit unique. And so what I want to do is just make sure everyone understands. A millage is 1/1000th of a percent. So that means for every $1,000 of assessed property tax, or property value, it equates to $1 of tax collection. So on a $100,000 assessed property, it equates to $1,000 of tax. Our millage, as you see in the yellow shade, we're at 12.36 mils. That means for every $1,000 of assessed value, there's $12.36 collected and used to, again, subsidize the school's operation. For a house or a piece of property with $100,000 value, that equates to $1,236. The plan that you've listened to this point impacts your taxes. It impacts your taxes because that is the source of funding. The plan that you saw has an increase in your taxes of 4.16% over a 4-year period. What that means is that same $1,236 against a $100,000 piece of property is $1,652 4 years from now, when the full effect of that tax impact is completed. Now, the information at the bottom is really of interest, and it gets at the heart of what I would say is really the paradox of seeming to be similar. And by that I mean we seem to be similar. We seem to be similar to the Shenango, or Wilmington, or Laurel in particular. And the reason we're similar is because the size of our enrollment across any one of those four is within 100 students throughout the entire K through 12 grade system. In any one class, we're within 1 or 2, maybe a dozen students. So size-wise, we are very similar, but that really is where these similarities stop. Because when you look at some of the other economic characteristics that associate back to the sources of the revenue, you can see that we're really not so similar beyond that. Go to the next slide, please. One of the things that is among the board, among its most important responsibilities to do, is the quality of its due diligence anytime it undertakes a transaction. And I wanted to make sure that the community was aware of some of the due diligence that we've undertaken. And the first is the role of advisors. Now, the folks that are here from public finance management, the engineers, the architects from HHSDR, I mean, collectively, this is a group that has 125 years of experience doing this thing. They've been involved with hundreds of transactions, and individually been involved with dozens of transactions, and they've been very vital to us as advisors. The strength of Shenango is perhaps at its all-time high. And we look a lot at the balance sheet. And the balance sheet is strong. We have what's called a fund balance, which is simply a measure of assets in relation to liabilities. Our assets are greater than liabilities. That's a good position to be in. We have about $3.8 million of fund balance, and about $2.5 million of that is in our capital reserve. And the capital reserve is effectively the result of saving over a period of time for the things that we know are going to be certain, taking care of routine repairs and capital replacements as fixtures and furniture and the insides of these facilities age. But we've over that decade that Mike alluded to, we've been purposeful to try to save what we could, to fund our depreciation, to take the debt service we no longer have and set those dollars aside. And that has really given us a position of strength from a balance sheet perspective. Zach alluded to the market factors, As a board member, this is something we spend a lot of time talking about, the quality of the interest rate environment. Not the all-time low, but it's still very favorable. And we also spend a lot of time looking at construction supply and demand. The numbers we've talked about have not been competitive to bid. We've set a scale. We think right now that the construction supply and demand favors the buyer. And again, that's what Zach was alluding to and Greer was alluding to in terms of the market factors. The debt instruments that Zach spoke about are flexible. They have some features that give us a little bit more economic impact. The three tranches that Zach mentioned two of them are designed to be bank qualified. The benefit of being bank qualified is it lowers the interest rate about 0.25%. That's real money avoided when you're borrowing money. They have a call feature that's 5 years, not the normal 8 to 10 years. What that allows us to do is take advantage of a more favorable interest rate environment should it develop in a shorter period of time. Great flexibility. These will be insured bonds. The benefit of being insured is it creates market attractiveness. When you're attracted to the market rate, that tends to drive down interest rates. And as somebody said earlier, the timing needs to be commensurate with when the construction occurs. Two other points that I want to just talk about that aren't up here. There's this thing called PlanCon. And Zach talked about PlanCon is an acronym for Planned Construction. It's a provision in the Department of Education that's designed to redistribute monies back to school districts to help subsidize, lower the burden to the property tax owners whenever these types of projects are undertaken. So we have incorporated the known provisions of PlanCon, but there is an enormous amount of debate going on at the state level about the PlanCon and increasing it to the levels that it used to be. We've only factored in that which under the current legislation is available to us. And the last comment I would make on due diligence is the estimates that have been made do not have any unreasonable assumptions around avoided costs in the future. Now, we do expect the utility consumption to be lower. We expect that there will be operating efficiencies with a contiguous school rather than one that's separated by 1,000 yards. We expect those things, but because they weren't quantifiable, we didn't factor them in. The only thing that was factored in sizing this project were the operational savings that are known today. So those are my comments around the due diligence. Is there one of the other items that really became apparent last night at town hall is what is it we're asking for? On the ballot on November 3rd is a simple statement that you see here. We're required to get community approval anytime there's the pursuit of a tax increase beyond a very de minimis amount that's allowed under the state law. This is the ballot question that you'll see. And simply, yes or no, shall we or shall we not incur debt of this magnitude? And again, this is a sizing issue, so the size, the scale has been set at 44 based on, again, all of the work of our architects and the financial characteristics I spoke about with Zach a few moments ago. So anyway, those are my thoughts, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, next time from Greer. Project details.
I thought I'd go through the cost again for you that were here, for those of you that were here last week. Also, we included a couple extra slides tonight that addresses some of the questions we had last week as well, just to add a little more clarity to the cost of the project. Zach referred to the financing options that he looked at between new and renovation numbers, what that impact was. We provide him these estimates of construction, the new building construction at $37,524,000 versus a renovation cost of $24,834,000. There are related costs of $6.9 million for the new building, $5.8 million for the renovation, and the total is the number that you saw in the ballot question for the new building of $44,505,000 and the renovation of $30,670,000. These were, again, were part of the feasibility study. They've been updated as we progressed since that was completed back in February. We also talked, when the board deliberated on this scenarios about timeline for construction. The new building is projected to be a 27-month duration. The renovation would be a 30-month duration. The difference being the new building can be constructed while this building is being occupied for educational purposes. If the building would actually be completed in 23 months is our estimate of that. Following the completion of the building, students would move from this structure to the new facility, and then the demolition of this would begin, and the completion of the ball fields would then follow that. So there's a 4-month duration period after the new building is constructed for a total of 27 months. The renovation, we're estimating to be a 30-month duration. It's going to have to be phased. We did plan that we would bring in some modular construction trailer or some modular trailers for classroom use, and then start to renovate classrooms around the building in a sequence that would facilitate segregation of construction activities from educational activities, taking approximately 5 to 6 rooms at a time, picking our way around the building from first floor to second to third, doing some of the special program areas during the summer months, like the gymnasium, the cafeteria, would occur in those months. A lot of times what we would see happening is closing the kitchen maybe a month before school is out so that it can be completely renovated and be ready to go the following September. So the logic would be that the renovation would take place in that fashion. Since we would not be adding any new space to the building, is the need for some type of modular classroom space for swing space for facilitate construction during the course of the school year. But that's how we arrived at a 30-month duration for the renovation. I put an example up last week, do it again tonight. This is a building that's under construction now, a project of ours down in the Pittsburgh area. It was an existing building. It's a 2-story middle school. It has a small addition here. The rest of this is all renovation. In this particular project, this house grades 5 through 8 for the school district. They opted to keep 5th grade back at their elementary building to facilitate this construction. So we had 3 grade levels to work around in the building. So we're beginning construction right now. It just started this past summer in this 2-story section here. We're obviously working on a new addition at the same time. As this completes, students will move from these other classroom areas into this section of the building, and then we'll move to another area. It's strung out over 8 phases. It's going to be completed next December of 2017. So you can see the logic that has to go into this types of planning when you're renovating the building. Some of the other logistics that are to be concerned with are maintaining life safety systems, replacing heating systems, temperature control systems. There's a lot of extra temporary systems that go into renovation, which affects time and cost. We had some questions last week, and I thought we could maybe answer some of those with this slide. This is the breakdown of costs for the project that's proposed for you. In the left column here is the new elementary cost. And these group of costs here are the construction cost. It's $29,459,000. The size of the elementary building, if you recall, I showed you that D-mark line where the blue footprint was and the district office was. That comprises 118,450 square feet based upon our concept drawing. The high school portion, which is the tan-colored portion on that slide, comprises 28,650 square feet. The total of new space is 147,100 square feet. And we tried to separate this so that you can see the cost that's allocated to the elementary for construction is $29,459,000. The high school is $6,289,000. The total for construction, and this correlates with this previous slide, $35,748,000. The other cost for the fields, for the demolition of this building was $525,000, including the asbestos removal. And then the replacement of the fields was $800,000. for a total cost of $30,784,000 that would be attributed to the elementary building. And then for the high school, we are also doing some work to the boiler plant at the high school as part of the project. That's $451,000, so the high school cost breaks out to be $6,740,000, and our total is $37,524,000. And then the related costs right below that, the total is $6,981,000, and we prorated that for the high school at $1,254,000, and for the elementary $5,727,000. The related cost works out to be about 18.6% of the total cost, which is a little bit under normal. Normal is about 20% to 22%. That's just the way that the costs that we put together worked out percentage-wise. I also broke out the dollars per square foot for your references. The elementary, working backwards from the square footage, the total cost estimated works out about $249 a square foot. For the high school, it's about $220, and combined, it's about $242 per square foot aggregate. How does that compare with other projects? What's going on? We had some examples. Her question about some of the other projects in the area, and then I went to go back and compare that to some other recent bid projects. Both ours, some of ours, and some other projects that were not ours, just for comparison purposes, to show you how your project would fit into this. These are based upon estimates, and we're not bidding the project today. This is being forecasted for a December 16 bid opening. So the construction is going to be occurring in January 17 and on. So you try to forecast where costs are going to be during that first quarter of the project, like in the first quarter 17. It's the way contractors will look at bidding the project, because they have to look at material costs, labor costs, etc. So that's the forecast. And our forecast for your project is on the top line about $243 a square foot for bidding in 2016. Project of ours that was just bid this past month was $242 a square foot. We indexed that to 2016 costs, and it would be about $249 in another year. The South Park Middle School, it's a combination of additions and renovations. It was about $145 a square foot, indexed that to $149 a square foot for the total. When it was broke out between new and existing construction, it was about $199 a square foot for the new construction, $138 for the renovation portion. Freeport Middle School was bid in May of 14. It was $240 a square foot. If we indexed that to 2016, probably about $255. Lockley, which we talked about last week, was bid at $201. That was a combination of renovation and additions. New was $203. The renovations was about $199. That's indexed to 2016, it's about $226 a square foot. And then Case Avenue was back in 2011. It was $208 a square foot, and indexed to 2016 about $241. So I think some of the other costs that I went back and looked at from these past 10, 14 years that the district's been looking at projects, just to see where dollars per square foot, and this is always a leading number, because some indexes you look at, they exclude site costs, some exclude building furniture like cabinets and science rooms and classrooms and lockers. Take a lot of the fixtures out of the square foot cost, but trying to be apples to apples as best we can. Back in 2004, we were seeing projects cost around $145 a square foot. 2006, that escalated to $159 a square foot. 2007, it was $173 a square foot. 2009, it was $199 a square foot. And then 2013, $215 to $220 a square foot. So you can see how cost per square foot just keep escalating as time goes by. It goes pretty quickly. So what does this project look like time-wise? If the decision is to move forward, the design phase will begin in January. It'll be a 10-month duration to do the design work, to comply with the PlanCon requirements, and all reporting goes along with PlanCon so that we get our reimbursement, we get in line for that, and we have all the permitting to do, all the site permitting with the township, building code approvals, etc. Next December, we would be in the bid phase. We would be soliciting bids and awarding contracts, and then construction would begin January of 2017, 23-month duration for the building, and then will be completed in December of 18. Over the December holidays would be the opportunity to move from this building into the new structure. And then students will be occupying the new building for the remainder of that school year. And then following the evacuation of this building, the construction will begin to tear this building down and then construct the ball fields. So it's about a 4-month duration. There's a lot that would happen. What we've shown you tonight on the drawings and the cost projections are projections. Once the design phase begins, there's going to be the opportunity, things will get more refined with the details of the project, with the cost of the project, and then ultimately the bidding of the process. So our intention is when we put the projections together, we weren't trying to anticipate what the contractor's little bid was going to be, trying to make an estimated projection of what the cost may be. Expectations are that it would be hopefully lower when bids come in, and also all the decisions we made along the way with the design process. Thank you.
You know, I have one question either to Dean or Greer. When we talk about PlanCon, and I think Dean mentioned this, there's a moratorium, if you will, from the state. But PlanCon is a process by which the architects and the school district provide essentially updates. Is that correct? And at the end of the project, PlanCon will approve a certain amount of money that would be reimbursed to the school district. Is that correct? Do we know what that ratio is, or what the school district's aid ratio is, to kind of give folks an idea of how much money may be coming back? And that money obviously would be used for debt service. Is that correct? So please.
Let me just answer or follow up on your point about PlanCon. PlanCon is like an 8-part process, A through K. Our project has been approved for parts A and B. You've heard the word about moratorium. Moratorium specifically is for receiving new applications. It's not for not paying anyone. So once you're in the pipeline, your reimbursement, you eventually get your reimbursement, hopefully once the state figures out their budget issues. But the moratorium is not separate. It was in the governor's first budget, but the moratorium was simply not to receive new applications. It was not to stop projects that were in the pipeline or projects that were waiting for funding. As you go through each step of PlanCon, each step of the project, there's a reporting system to the department. Our next step for your project would be what we call Part D, which is a project cost based upon estimates, followed by Part E, which is the design development, would be more refined designs of what we would show you this evening, in more detail. Part F would be the construction documents in the bid phase. Part G is the project cost based upon bids. So we will be looking at Part G until December of 16 at the earliest right now. Once that is approved, the project construction contracts can go forward. Part H is the financing. That was the piece that Zach spoke to you about. Once Part H is approved, then the reimbursement will start to flow on the annual debt service payments that he alluded to. So that's the quick and dirty of the PlanCon. There are some more parts that follow that for some interim reporting and some refinancings. Those would follow later on if refinancings become available for you. The reimbursement for this elementary project, effective, when you take the eligible amount for the project, divided by the project cost gives you a percentage times the district's market value aid ratio. This works out to be about 11% for the elementary project. The high school is not reimbursable. And I showed that demising line between high school and elementary. The elementary portion is what is getting the reimbursement. The high school portion is not. For two reasons. One is they are separate entities. Students don't share both facilities. So there is a demising line for that. Plus, it gives the district the opportunity down the road, if they want to go back and get reimbursement for the high school, and they decide to do renovations there, they're not starting with a new project. The districts right now are eligible for reimbursement every 20 years after a reimbursement project has been completed. So you don't necessarily want to start the clock on the high school if you're not even doing that much work there. So we kept that option open for the board and the district for future years.
Yes, thanks, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, Bureau.
Thank you. I want to address one of the questions that came up last week. The question was, what happens if it's voted down? If it's voted down, it's done. There is no plan B. We have no other plan B. Renovation those numbers are up there for comparison. We're not going to renovate. It wouldn't be fiscally prudent to spend $20+ million, $30 million to renovate this old building. It would tie the board, it would tie the community for 20 years, and that's part of how we got in the situation we're in. In '93, a renovation was done here. Like it was discussed, the board looked at what to do back in 2001, 2003, several times. It always came up that we needed a new building. But we couldn't get any reimbursement for 20 years, so we couldn't get any reimbursement until 2013. Plus, we were under a bond. We were still paying for the '93 renovation until 2013. Come 2013, the state had a moratorium on plan funding. There was no state funding available. It finally became available. Plus, our bond is paid. We're not going to put the future into that situation again for the next 20 years. So if this is voted down, we're not renovating. We'll patch it together, we'll keep it going, we'll keep it safe. But we're not going to renovate. You know, kind of a silly comparison. Got an old '89 Cavalier sitting in the driveway. It's got 250,000 miles on it. And bond doesn't hold it together. You're not going to put a brand new transmission in it. It's seen its best days. Well, this building is that '89 Cavalier. So, for now, we're counting on the community to approve this. If they don't, that's a choice that you have made, and we will move on. But there is no plan B. So thank you.
One last thing for me. From the responses at the town hall meeting last week, we were asked to provide more specific detail on those related costs, that $6.9 million related costs. So that's what we try to do here this evening. And you can kind of see where the money is flowing to for phones, for furniture, survey, commissioning, printing, code approval, asbestos consultant, design and engineering, clerks of the work, contingency fund is a large balance there, and also the financing cost. I guess I'd like to clarify again, you've heard it many times, I essentially want to drive the point home. The $44.5 million that are proposed for this project is the max cost of the project. Whenever we take the next year to finalize the design of the building, and we go out to bid, we anticipate that those costs are going to be lower. We anticipate whenever that happens, some of these fees will be lower as well. Whenever we go out for financing, we anticipate the rates being lower. Some of these fees will be lower if that happens. Ultimately, and those lower fees will result in lower millage increase for the public. So I just wanted to keep that in mind. Also, last meeting, the topic of declining enrollment came up. If Shenango Township wants to remain competitive in staving off this decline, we must maintain a school district that can boast a quality education and has a vision for the future. And it's my belief that this new project is that vision for our community. I guess in closing, one of the most important attractions for a prospective homebuyer and builder has is the quality of education available in the school district. Ultimately, we need the tools and we need the physical environment, and we also need you as citizens in this community to support our endeavor. We know it's not easy to vote for a tax increase. It's truly your decision. I know it's a tough one, but this community has a tradition of a quiet sense of pride and a willingness to make the necessary decisions to keep the school district moving in the 21st century. Thank you. Two more points of interest is that there's a senior citizens coffee that's scheduled for October 28th at 10 a.m. So if you're interested, or if you know anybody who'd be interested in coming here in the elementary school, we'd love to have you. And essentially, it's designed to be a smaller setting than this, and then answering specific questions that they may have. And of course, election is November 3rd.